Hey guys, welcome back to This Is My Hobby, so I can talk about whatever I want. Christmas edition. If you're new, then expect no consistency because there isn't any. I just find something I want to rant about or just share with you, make a script out of it, and then talk for who knows how long about it. Actually, I don't even know if this is a rant, maybe more like a story time with some ranting. Brace yourself because this is not a feel-good Christmas story. I think you can assume that by the title, but just in case you were thinking this was gonna be like a nice Christmas story, it's not. I can't remember the last time I talked about something nice in this channel. My only disclaimer this time, since this is not like something I researched, is that I've had a migraine all day and I had to babysit my niece and nephew. So I'm tired and my head hurts and I'm trying not to throw up. So yeah, maybe I'm not gonna be super high energy, but it's gonna be December 24 in half an hour, so I need to get this recorded. Also, in case you don't know, when I have a migraine, my speech gets slurred a little. I start slurring my words. So if I sound weird, anything sounds weird, it's because I have a migraine. I actually recently told this story on stream and I thought, hey, why not tell it on YouTube too, since I wanted to make a holiday video and I don't know what to make a holiday video on. Before I start, actually, now that I think about it, I have another disclaimer. I'm not telling you how to raise your children. If you want to tell your kids Santa is real, then go ahead. I'm just telling you how I think my trust issues started and why, if I ever have children, I personally wouldn't tell them Santa or whoever you believe in is real. Yeah, that's just it. For context, I want to explain that I live in Colombia and I didn't believe in Santa. Santa was only for the US, or so I thought when I was a child. Yes, when I was a child, I thought every country had their designated person to bring children gifts and Santa was US only. I don't know why I thought that. I asked my mom and she doesn't know why I thought that either. I kind of want to blame it on my brother because most of the shit I believed when I was a kid was due to my brother. To be fair though, I only knew about like 5 countries when I was a child. I thought the world was Colombia, US, Venezuela, Mexico, Australia, China, and Africa for years. And you know, I know Africa is not a country, okay? I was a child, and to be fair, most people think Africa is a country nowadays. As adults, because education is terrible and racist, I can actually explain to you why I thought those were the only countries, but I think you don't care. So that's off topic. Let me just keep talking. The context. In Colombia, Jesus Christ, yes, that Jesus Christ, brings us gifts. Except we don't call him Jesus or baby Jesus. We call him Niño Dios, which translates to child God, or how I like to call him, Kid God. So yeah, Kid God brought us presents the day of his birthday for some odd reason. I know the story happened before I was 9 because my 9th Christmas was very memorable for me for reasons you'll learn in the future. And it was definitely after I was 6 because I was allowed to write the letter for Kid God by myself without supervision. If I had to guess, I would say I was 7 for another reason I will say later. So yeah. Let's say I was 7. I wrote my letter to Kid God, which consisted of a list of toys as per usual, but I also wrote a little something to him on the bottom. For the life of me, I can't remember what that was, but it was something I didn't want to tell or ask anyone else. It was a super secret and I didn't want anyone in my family to know. And I knew Kid God was special because I was raised Catholic, so he would never betray my trust. In all honesty, it was either something so bad I repressed or something incredibly dumb. I'll say it was the latter because of what happened next. Probably something like where the babies come from or something stupid I did and felt bad, so I wanted to confess. Anyways, I folded the letter like it was an envelope and put a sticker so it wouldn't open. Then I went halfway down the stairs. Our tree was always next to the stairs in my old house, and I stuck it in the tree as high as I could, like almost next to, well, we didn't have a star, we had an angel. So almost next to the angel. Another thing you have to know is that I thought that if a letter was sealed and I wrote it for Kid God, nobody but Kid God could open it, which made what happened next not good. I would check every day if Kid God had taken the letter, and after a few days it was gone, right? I was happy until either that same day or maybe the day after, my mom approached me and you guessed it, she asked me about the little something I wrote at the end of the letter. Now, I've asked my mom if she remembers, but she doesn't even remember this happening at all, which just says a lot about how parents can traumatize you without even noticing. But there was my mother asking me about my deep secret that I thought only Kid God could see. I felt embarrassed and betrayed. My mother had opened my letter that I wrote specially for Kid God. How could she? I remember confronting her as to why she had read my letter, and she said it was because, quote unquote, she was curious what I asked for. Something like that. That didn't make things better. And while I can't remember what my stupid secret was, I remember I felt terrible for days. And I remember praying to Kid God and telling him what had happened and how next time he should take my letter faster before my mom could read it. Because I was blaming Kid God, who was supposed to bring me presents. Yeah, I wasn't a good child. Now, I remember that somewhere between that and my 9th Christmas, the rumors in school about Kid God and Mouse Perez not being real. Oh yeah, we don't believe in tooth fairies here. We believe in a mouse called Perez that picks up our teeth and leaves us money, which is terrifying thinking about it as an adult. I asked my mom and she told me of course Kid God was real. And the reason Mouse Perez can lift your pillow and take the tooth was because he was actually a man. Which honestly, even more terrifying. The consensus amongst my friends, children, by Christmas was that Perez was not real, but Kid God was. We still wanted to believe in Kid God, huh? I had my doubts, so I remember trying to stay up to sea and failing. I succeeded in staying up on my 9th Christmas. The reason why it was so memorable, as I mentioned before. Another thing you have to know for context is that at least in my family, when I was a child, Kid God didn't leave the presents underneath the tree. He left them next to my bed, which is why that Christmas when I was 9, I managed to wake up in the middle of the night and see my siblings, my cousin, and my mother putting my presents next to my bed. It was the gotcha moment, but I was too tired to say anything and I just fell back asleep. Next day, while I opened my presents, I looked at my mother suspiciously and told her what I saw. And I was 9. I think I was grown up enough to know the truth, but no. My mother decided to lie again and tell me it was because Kid God noticed I was awake and put the presents under the tree so I wouldn't see him. My mom somehow noticed that, which makes no sense because the tree was downstairs and my mother's room was upstairs, and she woke up my siblings and cousin to help bring them upstairs because she was scared I was gonna wake up and panic if I didn't see any presents. I was suspicious since, if you remember, I only woke up when they were putting them, not before. And I remember telling that to my mom, which is the worst part. And I remember her telling me that Kid God could see the future and knew I was gonna wake up. Where did my mom get this shit? I don't know. But I accepted it, probably mostly because I had a bunch of toys to play with. Fast forward to next year, and once again, context. Very briefly, I started living in the US in June with my aunt, uncle, and cousins. I came back to Colombia for Christmas, and I was told that Kid God was gonna take my presents to Miami, since that's where I lived now. In retrospect, it was probably because my parents didn't have a lot of money and they couldn't give me the amount of presents I was used to. They did still manage to give me a Game Boy Advance and Pokemon Silver though as their Christmas present, which honestly all I needed. I played that game day and night. I probably wouldn't have even noticed that there were no more presents. Anyways, back in Miami, I lived with my cousins who were at the time 8 and 3. and still pretty much believed in Kid God. I mean, I think my 3-year-old cousin had no idea what was happening. She just got presents and she unwrapped them. That was about it for her. At that point also, I had learned that Kid God was not Colombian exclusive. It was more of a belief thing. If you're Christian, you get Kid God, and if you're not, you get Santa, which still makes no sense and it's pretty ridiculous, but it's just how I was raised. I still had my doubts, but when I got to Miami in January, my aunt and uncle had tons of presents for me, supposedly from Kid God. And one of them was a bike. I loved it. So I didn't question anything else. I also didn't trust my aunt and uncle like I trusted my mother. I'm a very shy individual ever since I was a kid too. So I wouldn't have confronted them. Next year, everything would change. I had been telling my younger cousin that I had suspicions Kid God wasn't real and it was our parent, and he was like, same dude. Probably didn't say dude because he was 9, but I imagine he did. Let's imagine he did. That year I was 11. I didn't come back to Colombia for Christmas because we were moving from Miami at the end of the month. So I spent my first and only Christmas in the US. My cousins and I started looking for the presents everywhere before Christmas. Pretty much as soon as December hit, we figured that if his parents were Kid God, then the presents had to be hidden somewhere, right? The apartment didn't have a lot of good hiding spots, so we snuck into the basement to see if it was in the cars. But we hid gold when we noticed that the usually locked storage room outside the apartment was unlocked. And there they were, a pile of presents, all of them already wrapped so we couldn't see exactly what they were. But it was Christmas wrapping paper. We were unlucky though, because my aunt found us and started screaming at us for going through her stuff. Then she said that those were the Christmas presents she bought for us, and they were storage because she didn't want to put too many on the floor and cover the whole living room. Which was fair because the living room was small, and to her credit, she did put a few presents under the tree afterwards. The thing was, come Christmas Day, Kid God's presents were wrapped in the same exact wrapping paper, the same Christmas wrapping paper. So yeah, busted. I finally had my confirmation, but I didn't confront my aunt because once again, I didn't trust her. We weren't close. I just waited until my mom called me because it was Christmas, and I cried. I mean, a little context, I cried about everything. Since I was a child, till this day, I'll cry about everything. So I just started crying, and I was telling her that she had lied to me, and she had lied to me for years about Kid God, and why she didn't tell me years ago when I asked her. And when I saw them putting my presents and I was writing my secrets in the letter, and just completely over dramatically vented all my, I want to say problems, but were they really a problem? I was being over dramatic. But still, I felt betrayed and I felt stupid. I got my period for the first time in January after that Christmas. So I was starting to get very hormonal. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. Also, now you know when I got my first period, so that's information that maybe you didn't want to know. But anyways, I didn't think of the implications that if Kid God hadn't bought my presents, then my parents had, and I should feel thankful that they gave me all those presents for years. I was 11 and I felt betrayed. In retrospect, I don't think it would have been that big of a deal if it weren't for a few things. Maybe my hormones. Number 1, maybe my hormones. 2, maybe if I hadn't written a secret on a letter once. 3, if when I had asked my mother about it, she had been honest. And I think the last reason was that I was living in a country I hated without my family, without my mom and dad, without my siblings, and my friends from Colombia. And to boot, I didn't get to spend Christmas with my family because we were moving to Georgia. I wasn't even gonna see my friends in Miami anymore. I now had to make more friends. So I think emotionally, I was not doing well for an 11-year-old. It's just a lot to spend the holidays away from your family and you're moving and just a lot. I think it was a lot for me at that age. I think all of that had a lot to do with it, is just what I'm trying to say. Like looking back at it as a 29-year-old lady. And I think what also had a lot to do with it was that I was raised Catholic. And how many times has she told me lying was bad and a sin, and that if I lied, kid God wouldn't bring me presents, which is a hypocrisy considering they were lying to me. And I also kept thinking, what else is a lie? What are they telling me that it's not true? And of course, the more years pass and you stop being a child, you find out so much more that your parents lie about. Like how I was told not to walk barefoot while there was a thunderstorm because a thunder could strike the house and electrocute me. Or how I shouldn't walk barefoot because my feet will get flat and grow like Bigfoot's. Or how I shouldn't walk barefoot because if I step on where the dogs previously pissed, I would get an infection. If you haven't noticed, I don't like shoes. And if I'm home, I'm barefoot all the time. And that was a big issue when I was a kid. That's still a big issue. My mom still screams at me for being barefoot. And I'm once again 29. So yeah, I'm almost positive that that's where my trust issues come from. And why whenever my mom tells me anything these days, my first instinct is to not believe it, which is pretty fucked up. I just think personally, lying to your kids about something that seems so insignificant is not cool based on my experience. I'm sure my experience is like a rare case and most children turn out fine. And as I said, this is not me telling you or anyone to not tell your children about Santa or Kid God or whatever you believe in. That's fine. You do you. Personally, if I ever do have children, which I probably won't, I won't tell them that. I'll be like, yeah, other kids do that, we don't do that, but you're still gonna get presents. Like, that's not gonna change. They're just mine to you, not from a guy kind of breaks into your house. Or is Jesus? I would be fine with Jesus breaking into my house. Jesus seemed like the nice guy. Anyways, I just rather they know the presents are coming from, me, because they're loved and they deserve it. And I also wouldn't put like the fear of being naughty, because like I didn't mention this. Well, I kind of mentioned it in the story because it wasn't like super relevant until the end, but I would constantly get told through like once like September, October approached, I would be like, you need to get good grades or Kid God won't bring you presents. Or if you don't eat all your food, Kid God won't bring you presents. And I just don't vibe with those kinds of, I'm gonna call them what they are, threats. I feel like there are better ways to incentivize your children to do good things. Enough with childhood traumas. Let me know if you have any holiday stories. Santa, Kid God, anything. Also, if you believed in a fake entity bringing you presents, let me know what your experience was like finding out. Like, were you cool with it? Or were you over dramatic like me? I recently had a friend tell me that their parents couldn't afford presents. So basically Santa just didn't visit them, and that broke my heart. Like maybe if the image of Santa and the lie behind didn't exist, children wouldn't feel left out. Or like maybe they did something wrong and that's why they didn't get presents. I don't know. That really fucked me up because I obviously grew up very privileged to have presents until for years. And I just had tons of presents and I didn't get the concept that other kids didn't get presents. And I imagine as a parent it must feel terrible too because as I said, I don't have children. But this year I was scared that I wasn't gonna have money for my niece and my nephew's presents. So I had to borrow money from my brother while I got paid. And thankfully everything worked out and I actually got paid way more than I thought I was gonna. So I managed to get presents for the whole family. I can't imagine that there's like some guilt not being able to fulfill that fantasy for your kids. So if you can't, donate to children of low income homes, or if you live in a country like mine, donate to homeless children. Every year, me and my family would like get toys and clothing, and especially since I have a niece and nephew who are growing, they had a lot of clothes that they grew out of, so we would collect all of that and we would go out, and if we saw kids we would just give them stuff. But this year with the pandemic, that's just very hard. We still donated some clothing and toys. I think the toys haven't been donated yet actually. I don't know. I'm not like into the loop this year because of the pandemic. But there's also charities. I'm sure there are charities where you live too. So yeah, if it's possible, just do that. It's really heartbreaking for me that there's kids out there who might not get anything. There's this whole like fantasy sold out by capitalism that you should be getting tons of presents this time of the year. Just remember to not donate to the Salvation Army because they are terrible. Anyways, sorry this was kind of a bummer of a holiday video. I'm kidding, I just didn't know what else to do for the holidays, and maybe next year I'll post a nicer story. Have a nice holiday if you celebrate any, and if not, just have a nice December, and hopefully you're doing well in this terrible times. If you like the video, leave a like, and if you want to hear me talk about whatever I feel like, be sure to subscribe. Special thanks to my patrons, and I will see you, actually I don't know if I will see you next week. Might see you next year, I'm not sure, but bye.